What's up guys? What I would do another video talking about inghams today. So the other day I was browsing the comments on one of their videos. I think it was Wednesday or Thursday's video. I was looking at the comments and someone posted a comment asking if the inghams will return to America. And I actually did that comment. I saw that on the day, and I actually responded to that comment saying that they are planning to return to America very soon. Now, to me, when I saw that comment, they replied to that comment, I pissed myself laughing. At the end of the day, he was saying, "Oh, we're planning to go back to America very soon." And I just thought to myself, like, hot the ball crap. When I saw that comment, I just thought, you know what, hot the ball crap. Because we all know they'll never go back to America. Like, no matter how much they try to convince people that they're gonna go back there, they are gonna go back there. I think we all know that that will never happen. I mean, I would like to be proven wrong on that. Don't get me wrong. I would like to be proven wrong. I'd love nothing more than to be proven wrong. You know, I've said in the past I would love to see them go back to America just to prove, all of the hate is wrong, just to prove a point to all of those people who have been, who have said that they would never attempt that, they would know, or that they would never go back there, or they would never be brave enough to go back there. But I think we all know they never will go back to America, I think the IFAM need to stop asking that question and need to start accepting the fact that the aliens will never return there. Um, and I think obviously we all know that they'll never return there because of what Chris did. Chris, himself would not have the balls to attempt to return to America. He won't be brave enough to do that. He's too scared. He's too much of a Howard to try it, to even try that. You know, it's like, when I think of how likely it is, I would probably say there's probably a much more higher chance of pigs flying than there is of the inghams going back to America. I would say pigs flying is probably more likely than the inghams going back to America. To be honest, I just don't think it's that likely. To be honest, as much as I would like to believe that they are going to attempt that at some point, whether that's before the end of this year or whether that's next year. But I honestly don't think they're going to, I would be massively shocked if they were to attempt that. I think everyone would. I think the online reaction to that would be huge. But I can't imagine that the online reaction to that would be fairly positive. A lot of people would be, bringing up what he did and, talking about what he did and, saying, oh, but at the end of the day, is it gonna happen? Is it not? I don't think it is. Maybe there are some idiots out there who think that, return to America for the inghams is still on the cards. I remember the other year when they said that they were when they were asked that question about going back to America, and they said that they were waiting for the COVID lockdowns to be lifted and stuff to be lifted over there, and they said that as soon as those lockdowns were lifted, they would return to America. That's still yet to happen, and COVID restrictions have been lifted there quite a while ago. So you would think that and they did say as soon as the COVID restrictions were lifted, they would return to America. It didn't happen and hasn't happened yet. You know, they did say the other day that they're planning to return to America very soon. I highly doubt that. He was saying, "Oh, we're planning to go back there," or we will be going back there, but it will never happen. It will never materialize. It will this is the thing. Now, he was saying we're going back to America or we're planning to return there, but it will never come off. It will not happen. No matter how many times they say it's gonna happen, or they say they're gonna go back there, we all know that's never gonna happen. anyone who with an ounce of common sense will know that will never happen, or is not highly likely to happen, purely because of what Christopher Winham did. Had it not been for what he did, I would probably say that yes, return to America would be highly likely. But I just can't see that he's going to go back to America, especially after what he did. You know, I just don't think it's going to come off. As I said, I myself would love to believe that it's going to happen, but I just don't think it's going to at the end of the day. I just don't think it's going to happen. I hate to be, old Mr. Negative, but I just don't really think it is going to happen, as I said. Do they really think people are stupid enough to believe that they are going to go back to America? I don't think they're going to. Yeah, some people might be stupid enough to still believe it's going to happen at some point, but, as I said towards the start of the video, the iFam need to start accepting that it's never going to happen. They need to face the facts, and the facts are the inghams will never be returning to America, and we all know that. We all know that they're never going to be brave enough to attempt that, especially Chris. We all know he'll never have the balls to attempt that. As much as he said he's going to do it, we all know he's not going to do it because he's not brave enough to do it. It's really that simple, to be honest. It couldn't be any more simpler than that, to be fair. We all know it's not going to happen because he doesn't have the balls to do that. Simple as that. It has to be said. I think we all know that. It is. It is crazy. To think that we are going to see that we are going to be going. Obviously, they keep saying, "Oh, we're going to go back to America," and it obviously never happens. As obviously, it's never going to happen. They need to stop lying to their facts. They need to admit it will never happen. They need to admit it that it will never happen. As I think we all know, I think we all know that it's never really going to. Let's be real. Let's be totally honest here. It's not going to happen, is it? I think we all know that. I think we all know that a return to America for them is very unlikely. As I said, they'll keep saying it's going to happen. They'll keep saying they're going back there, but it will never happen. As I said, if it does happen, I will be very shocked and I will be very surprised by that. But I think it's fair to say that it will never ever happen. But there's no doubt in my mind. But I'm fairly confident that it will never happen. I think. I don't think I don't think that's really a lie. I think that's just me being. That's just me being honest. I don't think an innings return and an innings returning to America is likely to happen anytime soon. I don't think it will happen. I don't think it will ever happen. It's like, why would, do people really think that he would be brave enough to do that? Do people really think that Chris would be brave enough to attempt returning to America? Does he really think, do people think, would he really be brave enough to do that? No. He absolutely would not be brave enough to attempt that, and, without a doubt. There's no way he would attempt that if he's not brave enough to do that, simple as that. So I thought I would come on this evening and just, give my thoughts on that. Hope you've had an awesome day. This is only going to be a short video. I'll see you for another one soon. Bye bye.